Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melior Via. I am up here at Immortals Inc. today with Mikey.
What is going on, John? I have a new mic.
Congratulations.
I know, I feel really entitled to be here with you.
So I got two Mikeys here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we actually have three
Several,
Mikeys.
yeah, it's a crowd.
Yeah.
I guess then I'll be talking with Mikeys about the Abomination Vaults adventure path for Pathfinder 2nd Edition today.
Looks like it's Pathfinder time.
It is Pathfinder time again today. So this is an adventure path compilation, so it's a nice hardcover book, 256 pages of full color that compiled 3 different adventure paths. The shorter ones that they usually release that are about 90 pages each. This one goes from 1st or maybe 2nd level up to about 11th level. And the 3 adventures that it compiles were Runes of Gauntlet, Hands of the Devil, and Eyes of Empty Death. Like I said, those were each about 90 pages. This guy's 256, so there was a little bit of editing in combining those together here. I don't think there's anything missing, but probably just a few things got compiled. One of the things that's really exciting about this specific one, at least I think, that may draw some more eyes to it, may get people to want to take a look at it now, is that this is the first adventure, to my knowledge, that Paizo will be publishing also for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And that's going to be coming out this fall. So if you're excited about that, the Pathfinder version is available now, and you can sink your teeth into it, get a feel for the content of it. And then if you do want to run it in 5th edition, maybe pick up that version, see how they compare. But before we dive into that part, I figure we should actually talk about the content of the adventure, right?
Yeah, like what is it?
There's a little bit of world building going on here. This is set on Starstone Isle. It's not far from Absalom, which is like the big city in the Pathfinder setting.
It's like New York City?
Kind of, only more so because there's like deities there, right? So there's a divine presence to Absalom.
Ooh.
Yeah. And this is in a small town called Otari. And Otari is kind of set up like a sandbox. The players are going to come and go from there as they go to the dungeon and explore new areas and then come back and interact with some of the NPCs who are hanging out in Otari. It's a lumber town and a trade port. It's not a sprawling metropolis. It's only about 1,000 people living there. But it is near an abandoned keep. And that abandoned keep is called Gauntlet Keep. And that's where the first part of the adventure begins, because the light on top of Gauntlet Keep starts shining and bad things happen and adventurers need to come in and take care of that problem.
Can you go over what an actual keep is for me?
So when you're talking about a castle,
learning something new.
The central part of a castle, the main fortification, the thing that's most protected by all the outer walls, is the keep. So that's the part where usually like the throne room would be, or like the royal quarters would be.
Like, you know how, dragons love to sit on gold? Is that in a keep or is that somewhere else?
Usually that's in a dungeon, but it might be beneath a keep.
Okay.
If they've conquered a castle.
Wow, so that's actually amazing that I know what keep actually means now. I'm 19 years of age, almost 20 years old, in a couple of days actually, and now I know what keep means.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's basically the central part of a castle.
Thanks.
Sure, no problem. And this is kind of set up like the classic, iconic Dungeons & Dragons dungeon, the one where there's all kinds of stuff going on. And you find out the background to it is that there was this very powerful sorceress who had aspirations of achieving godhood.
Who doesn't?
Well, I mean, some more than others, yeah. And so she built this keep and this massive dungeon complex beneath it. And some adventurers a long time ago thought they defeated her, and well, maybe they didn't do as good a job as they thought they did. And that's kind of our setting, our meta for building this whole adventure and the whole massive dungeon complex that it feeds into. Beneath that keep, or in conjunction with that keep, there's basically 10 adventure chunks that go together. So that first one is the Gauntlet Keep, which is above ground. And like I mentioned, the player characters are drawn into that because of a light activating in the lighthouse. And it's kind of in the middle of a fen, so it's, not the nicest place for people to want to go to. So the villagers aren't real anxious to travel through this swampy fen area to get to the keep and find out what's going on there. After that, the next bit is, and again, we're going to get into some spoiler territory here, so if you're planning on playing this adventure, you probably want to tune out now, but if you're thinking about running it or giving it a read, let me go on and tell you a little bit more, okay?
Big spoiler alert above my head.
Absolutely. After they explore the keep and they find out that this light is kind of creating undead, which is kind of what drew people out here to check this out. There is an undead graveyard that's been activated by the light, and then there's a small dungeon that's associated with it. And so you've got these monsters and these undead showing up, and this whole infestation of Morlocks right around there.
Is an undead graveyard basically a cemetery?
Yeah, except that, most cemeteries that I've visited, nobody crawls out of the tombs.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
So they crawl out in these ones?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see. Undead.
Okay.
Yeah. After that, the next level, and, when I talk about these levels, it's not just like meaning that they're one floor, though they might be, but it's also typically there's going to be the break points where characters are going to advance a level as well, and maybe take a break and go back into town between exploring these different sections. But the next section I thought was pretty cool because it's this massive library complex that the sorceress Belcora built, and she's had it manned with ghouls. So there are these ghouls that have been there keeping this library organized for literally centuries. And the level beyond that is Belcora's private retreat that she set up for herself, and these are her abandoned quarters. And part of that is a temple to an outer god of despair and ghosts and swamps, which really is very fitting with where she chose to make her home.
It seems like it.
Yeah. The next level down from that is an arena. And there's a side quest here that takes the players back to Otari. And there's a gladiator arena, but there's all these horrors that are active in it too. So this offers some other opportunities for players to explore in not your typical dungeon crawl fashion. The next floor down past that is a laboratory that is run by these flesh warpers. They're these worm creatures, and they're willing to heal people in new and interesting ways and create these abominations, much like the title of the adventure. And they also run a tavern for their clients, which has all kinds of interesting personalities in it, and entities for the player characters to interact with.
When you said they're worms, correct?
Kinda, yeah.
What is that thing on the front to the right? Is that one of those worms, or is that a different worm?
Honestly, I'm not 100% positive what that thing is.
I would hope those aren't the worms that help
There's
you.
some pretty unpleasant things in this adventure. There really are. Past the laboratories, there's a whole prison detention level that's run by a devil that Belcora had summoned to manage it. And now he's at this point where he's been here for so long that he just really wants to weasel out of his contract and go home. So there's some really interesting opportunities for the players, right, and their characters rather, to negotiate with this entity. Past that, there's a farm with all these undead farmers running it because they've been underground for centuries again. And this is the first opportunity that the characters have a chance to interact with Belcora, the sorceress that's behind this whole place. Beyond that, there's a hunting grounds where the player characters have a chance to interact with some drow that are hunting there, and they can uncover more of Belcora's secrets and really come face to face with some very powerful creatures. By this point, the PCs are likely to be 9th or 10th level, so maybe they're ready for these kinds of encounters. And then after that, they finally can encounter the temple that Belcora built as the place where she intended to become a deity. And it's this massive buried temple and the final climactic encounter with the sorceress who is responsible for this whole dungeon. Once you get through that whole adventure, there is some information about Nimbeloth, and then there's a toolbox with items and artifacts and spell and gear, and even some feats and character elements that are specific to this campaign. So there's a whole lot here. Like I said, it's a 10-level dungeon. It's going to take your characters probably from 1st or 2nd level all the way up to 11th-ish. It's 256 pages for most groups. I know this is going to be a solid 3 to 6 months of gameplay at least.
Jeez.
And this is published by Paizo Publishing, 256 pages. $55. The lead dev on this was Ron Lundeen, and he worked with 3 additional authors and a whole lot of artists who lavishly illustrated this product. I think it's a fantastic campaign, and like I said, now available for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, coming soon for D&D 5th Edition. I really think that this is going to give players a whole new angle to really explore this world.
Whole lot going on, whole lot of epicness. Well said.
All right. If you're interested, we do have this on the shelf up here at Immortals Inc. or available at immortalsinc.com.
Couldn't have said it better myself, John.
Till next time, folks, good gaming.